front of Congress.
OpenAI was founded on the belief that artificial intelligence has the potential to improve nearly every aspect of our lives.
And then
Sam Altman, co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, visited his home last weekend.
he's on a global tour,
I would be surprised if Australia does not build great AI companies.
talking with world leaders in Europe and in Asia.
The thoughtfulness, the focus, the urgency on figuring out how we mitigate these very huge risks that are coming so that we get to enjoy the benefits of this technology.
Promoting this technology, but also acknowledging that it could be dangerous. There's always this nod to the dangers and the concerns, and that's part of who Sam is.
We've got to be cautious here. And also, I think it doesn't work to do all this in a lab. You've got to get these products out into the world. And make
He will tell you one thing and then immediately nod to the opposite thing. And this happens throughout a conversation. He is optimistic. This is going to be a good thing. While always saying, yeah, but there are concerns.
people should be happy that we're a little bit scared of this. I think people should be
You're
happy.
a little bit scared.
A little bit, yeah,
You
of course.
personally.
I think if I said I were not, you should either not trust me or be very unhappy I'm in this job.
So in some ways it sounds like he is embodying the tensions all around this new technology.
He absolutely is. And those tensions are real. And in some ways, this is a new thing for Silicon Valley. The thing you have to realize about Silicon Valley is that it's very much about, or has been about, optimism. People believing that things were possible that most people didn't. They, as Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, were going to make the world better. That's been the trope. What happened with artificial intelligence, in particular, over the last decade, is that you also have a group of people who are looking into the future, and they don't necessarily see an optimistic picture. They see a concerning picture. And as this technology that Mr. Altman and his lab are building gets more powerful, that becomes part of the Silicon Valley ethos. You have your optimists and you have your pessimists. And then you've got Sam Altman, who's so good at balancing things, embodying both of those two sides of the equation.
Can you just define these two camps? I think the optimist's case is pretty straightforward, right? That something like ChatGPT is going to enhance our lives and there can be safeguards that protect us. What exactly are the pessimists making the case for?
Well, the pessimists will acknowledge that this could be a powerful technology. They'll even say this could be used to cure cancer or solve climate change. But they are also fundamentally worried that if the right safeguards are not put in place, this could destroy humanity. It is a deeply held, sometimes strange to understand belief, but this is a real force in the valley. People are worried about this, and some of those people were sitting on the board of that not-for-profit that Sam Altman created back in 2015 when he initially put together OpenAI.
So there are pessimists about this technology who sit on the board of the nonprofit that basically employs Altman.
Right. And by November of 2023, that board is just 6 people. And because of the unusual structure of OpenAI, they have an incredible amount of power. Those 6 people control the for-profit company alone. They are not beholden to shareholders, investors who have put money into the company.
Even Microsoft with its billions in the company?
Even Microsoft, which has by this time put $13 billion into the company,
Wow.
does not have control over the situation. 6 people control whether Mr. Altman is at the head of that company or not. And a few days ago, Friday morning, while I was on the phone with another OpenAI employee, I was told I better look out for an email around noon. And then, just after noon, that tiny board announces to the world that Sam Altman is no longer the CEO of OpenAI, and no one can believe it. No one at OpenAI, no one at Microsoft, none of the investors in OpenAI, nobody saw this coming, and no one understands how all this is going to play out over the next 72 hours.
We'll be right back.
Walmart is strengthening their commitment to American jobs and communities by committing an additional $350 billion to products made, grown, or assembled right here in America. This helps small businesses like Proud Source Water in Mackay, Idaho, grow, hire more people, and support their local community. Learn more at walmart.com/America at Work.
I gave my brother a New York Times subscription.
She sent me a year-long subscription, so I have access to all the games. We'll do Wordle, Mini, Spelling Bee.
It has given us a personal connection. We exchange articles, and so having read the same article, we can discuss it. The coverage, the options, not just news.
Such a diversified gift.
I was really excited to give him a New York Times cooking subscription so that we could share recipes. And we even just shared a recipe the other day.
The New York Times contributes to our quality time together.
You have all of that information at your fingertips.
It enriches our relationship, broadening our horizons.
It was such a cool, thoughtful gift.
We're reading the same stuff, we're making the same food, we're on the same page.
Connect even more with someone you care about. Learn more about giving a New York Times subscription as a gift
At nytimes.com/gift.
Get a special rate if you act before December 1st.
So, Gabe, why did this board fire Sam Altman? How does that firing fit into this divide we've been discussing of the AI optimists and the AI pessimists, and what exactly has been the fallout?
One of the many remarkable things of this whole soap opera is that we don't really know why they ousted Sam Altman. What the board said was that they could no longer trust him to run this company and build AI for the benefit of humanity. But we still don't know why ultimately he was removed.
I mean, is it safe to assume that it does fit into the schism that you mentioned between those who think that ChatGPT is ultimately very good or very scary, and that somehow in trying to straddle those two universes, that Altman somehow ran afoul of a board that seems pretty full of pessimists?
That tension is fundamentally part of this situation. You have essentially a board that is split in half. You have three founders of OpenAI, including Sam Altman, on the board, and you have three other people, some of whom are very concerned about the future of AI, and Sam and his leadership team thought that that balance would work out.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the co-founders, Ilya Sutskever, a very important AI researcher over the past decade, has grown increasingly concerned about the dangers of the technology, and he is among those who ousted Mr. Altman.
He kind of broke the tie, as it were.
Ilya broke the tie.
Okay, so let's turn to the fallout of this board doing what it just did in getting rid of Altman.
We have major breaking news related to OpenAI. Sam Altman is out as CEO of OpenAI.
The fallout is immediate.
You know, the minute this thing started to filter out, Microsoft shares started to fall. They're down here.
Investors across the world, the people and companies who have put billions of dollars into this AI company, they don't understand the decision. They are blindsided by it.
Even key investors, they were only supposedly notified just a few minutes before that missive went out.
And on top of it all, they're powerless to do anything.
Obviously, this just puts a spotlight on this nonprofit board.
They have no say in what this tiny little board does, and that includes Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft.
We really want to partner with OpenAI, and we want to partner with Sam. And so irrespective of where Sam is...
He and other investors start to put pressure on this board to take Altman back.
We were very confident in Sam and his leadership team. I've not been told about anything. They published internally.
And the walls start to cave in, so to speak.
The company's president and co-founder, Greg Brockman, has quit after the CEO and fellow co-founder.
Especially when other talent from inside OpenAI starts to leave. There's this support spilling out across the internet. Everyone is trying to put pressure on these 4 people on the board, and pretty soon Altman is inside the offices of OpenAI in San Francisco trying to convince them to take him back. And the board, late on Sunday, they put out a note that says, "We are standing firm by our decision. Sam Altman is out." And out of the blue,
Microsoft announcing that it has hired Sam Altman to lead its artificial intelligence group. That came to stage.
Microsoft and Satya Nadella say, okay, we're essentially going to rebuild what you were doing at OpenAI, and we're creating a competitor. And when that happens, other employees at OpenAI start to sign a letter threatening to leave OpenAI and join this new venture.
Latest number we have right now, at least 700 of OpenAI employees threatening to leave the startup for Microsoft. By the way, that's out of about 770 employees total. Those demands...
And still, the board stands firm. And if that wasn't enough for you, Ilya Sutskever, the guy who switched sides and joined the board in ousting Mr. Altman, he switches sides again, and he goes back to Team Sam, and he says, "I deeply regret what I have done." And he puts his name on the letter that the 700 employees have sent out threatening to join the Microsoft venture.
So one of the board members who is responsible for Altman's ouster, once the ouster's repercussions become clear, says, "I really regret that," and signs a letter saying, "I will leave the company unless Altman returns as CEO." That is pretty head-spinning.
We're still trying to figure out what was inside his head and what is inside his head now.
How do you understand the depth of loyalty to Altman? Why does everyone decide that if Altman leaves, they're going to leave too?
Well, there are many reasons here. For one, they were on top of the world. They had a good thing going. They have a stake in the company. They can make money. They're also, for the most part, on the optimistic side. Many people who are concerned about dangers have left the company over the years because of this type of disagreement, just on a smaller scale. So you've got people who are more aligned with Altman at the company for the most part.
So in that sense, this board misunderstood where most people inside OpenAI were when it came to this pessimistic versus optimistic approach to AI. But if the board's goal was to constrain this technology and constrain someone like Altman with whom they disagree about the future of this technology, haven't they just failed to do that because that technology has just up and gone over to Microsoft, which would seem to have even fewer safeguards in place?
What you have to realize ultimately is that this technology is going to happen one way or another. This is a story that shows that the genie is out of the bottle in many ways, and the technology is going to push forward. Bottling the technology up in the way that the board seems to want to do may not be the best way forward. There are a lot of arguments that say we don't want to bottle it up inside these companies. We want more people to be aware of what is being built so we can understand it, so we can find the flaws, so we can find where the dangers might be. And there are
very concerted point to continue its military assistance. They're still helping train Ukrainian soldiers. They're providing them with ammunition and other equipment. Earlier this week on Monday, Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, visited Kyiv, where I am, to try to reassure Ukrainian leadership. And the State Department followed that up the same day by announcing a new package of up to $100 million worth of weapons and equipment for Ukraine. That is not the money that the Biden administration is currently asking for. That was already allotted. So military aid is still coming, but there's certainly a sense of anxiety here that I don't think I'd...
It's from the U.S. and its allies, or is there more going on?
There's a lot more going on. I mean, I think just the general state of the war is pretty bleak. You know, the front lines in Ukraine haven't moved much for a year. Ukraine has not made the big territorial gains that it was making a year ago when it retook areas in the Kherson region and the Kharkiv region. And the head of Ukraine's armed forces said earlier this month that the conflict is now pretty much at a World War I-like stalemate, which is a characterization we should say that Ukraine's president has strongly objected to. But I do think there's a sense amongst the general public here that this fight is not going to end anytime soon. The wife of the soldier that we heard from earlier says she's already helped raise money for funerals for 7 soldiers in her husband's brigade. And she doesn't think this fighting is going to end until 2026 at the earliest. And obviously, this is just her view. She doesn't have a crystal ball. She doesn't have any better sense of this than the rest of us. But it gives you a sense of what the general people in Ukraine are feeling right now after nearly 2 years of war.
And is that the general view among others who you talk to as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked to soldiers in Sloviansk, like a 30-minute drive from Bakhmut, which Russia now occupies, and they say, we're tired. I think a lot of people, in the first year of the war, there was all of these victories. There was this kind of like, everybody came together and realized, like, hey, we got to push this aggressor out. And that kind of enthusiasm has kind of fallen off in the last year just because we haven't seen those big territorial gains. And I think a lot of people in Ukraine are just kind of looking at the situation now and thinking, okay, this isn't going to end anytime soon. What decision do I need to make for myself now? And that's a really hard place, I think, for a lot of people to be.
NPR's Nathan Roth in Kyiv. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, thank you, Ari.
The classic Peanuts holiday special, A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, aired for the first time in 1973.
Isn't it peculiar, Charlie Brown, how some traditions just slowly fade away?
Not this tradition. 50 years after it first premiered on network TV, the special is now streaming on Apple TV+. NPR's Netta Ulaby wondered how it holds up today.
It's still easy to relate to poor Charlie Brown.
Holidays always depress me.
The special dates from the era of the Vietnam War. Its age creeps through the soft watercolors of its autumn landscapes and in characters like Linus. He seems today like a bit of a mansplainer.
Sally, Thanksgiving is a very important holiday.
And a character who's aged well is Peppermint Patty. A lot of people love her for modeling a swaggering girlhood. In the special, Peppermint Patty insists on inviting a bunch of kids to Charlie Brown's house for dinner, including her very, very close friend, Marcy.
What are we going to wear to this big Thanksgiving party, sir? What time do we go?
Peppermint Patty, an intersectional feminist, also invites the only black kid in Peanuts, Franklin.
You think I should wear a tie?
Nah, you can come as you are, Franklin. Old Chuck won't mind. Besides, he didn't say it was formal.
But at the dinner, mostly toasted popcorn, Franklin sits all by himself, alone on one side of the table in a sagging lawn chair.
Does it matter that he's sitting in a lawn chair, isolated on one side of the table? Yeah, because that's symbolic of the time.
Bryant Keith Alexander is Dean of Communications at Loyola Marymount University. He wants to be clear about something.
I love that special.
And he loves Franklin, who first showed him, he says, what it's like to be the only black guy at the table.
Franklin was and continues to be my hero. His positionality at the table is second.
All things considered from NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Churchill Downs, presenting the 150th Kentucky Derby, dedicated to making memories last forever for nearly 150 years. The Kentucky Derby on Saturday, May 4th. More at KentuckyDerby.com. From FX, presenting Fargo from creator Noah Hawley and starring Juno Temple, John Hamm, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. FX's Fargo, all new Tuesdays on FX, streaming on Hulu. From Total Wine and More, where customers can find gifts for people on their list, from a Cabernet to single barrel bourbon. TotalWine.com. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina, available to adults 21 or older. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
It's a minute before 5 o'clock. This is 91.7 WBXU. Clouds moving out tonight. Colder, a low of 33.
Support comes from Ensemble Theater Cincinnati, presenting Fiona the Musical, November 29th through December 29th. Based on the hippo that captured the world's heart, this story follows Fiona's journey from tiny baby to larger-than-life heroine. Tickets at ensemblecincinnati.org. Premier sponsor is Shuluk. Season sponsor is the LKC Foundation.
Support comes from Ball & Gaynor. For more than 30 years offering personalized financial planning and an investment philosophy focused on growing clients' income. The goal in a world of uncertainties, delivering peace of mind. Learn more about Ball & Gaynor online at dividendspaydividends.com.
91.7 WVXU Cincinnati and 88.5 WMUP Oxford. News from Cincinnati Public Radio and NPR.
A vehicle exploded while crossing from Canada into New York, leading to a shutdown of all bridges linking the two.
We will bring you the latest from that scene.
Today is Wednesday, November 22nd, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
And I'm Juana Summers. A deal between Israel and Hamas will pause the fighting in exchange for the release of some of the hostages taken on October 7th.
Family members of hostages hope this paves the way for a larger deal.
It's imperative for me to keep hope alive because that way I give strength to my sister, give strength to my communities, and give strength to myself.
And we unravel a Thanksgiving mystery. Why does the price for turkey drop when the demand is at its highest?
If you really think there's a lot of demand for a certain thing, that price of that product or thing should be really high.
First, these headlines.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Spear. An incident on a key bridge linking the U.S. and Canada today is still being investigated. A car crashed and exploded at the Rainbow Bridge. Officials say there were fatalities and a border protection officer was hurt. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau discussed the matter with members of Parliament today.
Mr. Speaker, this is obviously a very serious situation in Niagara Falls. There was a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge crossing. I've been briefed by the NSIA and the Minister of Public Safety. CBSA, RCMP, and Transport Canada are all fully engaged in providing the necessary support. There are a lot of questions, and we are following up to try and get as many answers as rapidly as possible. We are in close contact with U.S. officials, and will continue to work closely with them.
President Biden has also been briefed. The bridge links Canada with western New York near Buffalo. All 4 bridges connecting the U.S. and Canada in the area have now been closed. The FAA had shut down Buffalo International Airport. Some of the last surviving witnesses of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy have been sharing their stories on this 60th anniversary of the event that shattered the nation. Kennedy was killed as his motorcade passed through downtown Dallas, November 22nd, 1963. Among those who rushed to the scene, reporter Peggy Simpson with the Associated Press says she stayed with police as they converged on the Texas School Book Depository, the building where the shots rang out from. Former Secret Service agents were also interviewed for a limited series released this month by National Geographic. It includes archival footage. As the hostage release deal unfolds over coming days in Israel and Gaza, families are waiting to learn if their loved ones will be among those freed by Hamas. NPR's Brian Mann reports from Tel Aviv.
Qatar's government brokered this possible deal, which is expected to be reviewed by Israel's cabinet. In a statement, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "Hope there will be good news soon." Modi Crystal is an Israeli expert on hostage negotiations who wasn't involved in these talks. He says it's not clear Hamas can deliver on promises to return people captured in the October 7th terror attack.
So we are very welcoming everyone that came out of this terror and this horror. But in the same breath, it's really hard because maybe my sister is not going to be one of these 50 people.
Arab and Israeli media cite unnamed sources suggesting the deal would involve Hamas freeing hostages in exchange for a pause in Israel's offensive and release of some Palestinian prisoners. Brian Mann, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The number of people filing first-time jobless claims moved lower last week, though overall, even with rate hikes by the Federal Reserve, the labor market remains resilient. The department says first-time claims for unemployment benefits fell by 24,000, was seasonally adjusted 209,000. Stocks gained ground today. The Dow was up 184 points. You're listening to NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their clients' best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Good evening. It's 5:04 and 48 degrees in Cincinnati, 46 in Dayton. This is 91.7 WBXU. I'm Tana Weingartner in for Bill Reinhart. Police in Beaver Creek are working with the FBI to learn more about Monday night's shooting at a Walmart that left 4 injured. The shooter has been identified as Benjamin Charles Jones of Dayton. Law enforcement officers were searching his home and belongings yesterday. FBI agent Zrinka Dilber urges people to share what they know about Jones.
The FBI is currently looking at the shooter, his background, his motivation, and possible connections. I would like to ask the public if they can assist in this investigation by calling the FBI and providing any tips.
According to investigators, shortly after 8:35 Monday night, 911 dispatch got calls from shoppers saying Jones was firing a rifle. 3 minutes later, the first 2 officers on the scene found the shooter dead near the front of the store. Police say he died from a self-inflicted gunshot. Beaver Creek city leaders say they plan to speak with Walmart officials regarding the future of the store. The Indiana Family and Social Services Administration has added another round of its employer-sponsored child care grants. James Vaughn is the Deputy Communication Director for Child Care at the FSSA. He says there are a variety of ways these grants can benefit employees.
To support the sponsoring of dependent care assistance plans, providing on-site or near-site child care, or offering child care tuition benefits to their employees.
Vaughn says the FSSA added a second round of grants to give employers more time to figure out the logistics of applying and sustaining this grant funding. He says the state wants to encourage more organizations and businesses to apply for the program as it helps encourage a work and family life balance for employees.
but it's also finding a way to allow their families to work and not have to worry about where they're going to find childcare or whether they're going to find childcare.
He says 25% of the funding for these employer-sponsored child care grants will be reserved for applicants in the second round. The deadline for the first round of those applications was today. Clouds moving out tonight, colder, a low of 33. This is WBXU.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Juana Summers.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. An explosion at a bridge spanning the U.S.-Canada border has prompted authorities to shut down some New York border crossings and step up security at others. The blast happened late this morning when a vehicle blew up near the Rainbow Bridge just outside Niagara Falls. Grant Ashley of member station WBFO is there at Niagara Falls and on the line with us now. Hi, Grant.
Hi, Ari. How are you?
All right. There has been so much speculation surrounding this incident. What is actually known so far about what happened?
Not a whole lot, but what I can tell you is that an explosion occurred at around 11:30 on the Rainbow Bridge, which connects Niagara Falls, New York to Niagara Falls, Ontario. Customs, Border Patrol, ATF, and local and state law enforcement have been all over the area. The FBI is also investigating. The Wyndham Garden Hotel near the bridge was evacuated. So, we tried to speak to some of the people there, but they were too shaken up. We don't know whether this was accidental or intentional. We also don't know whether the car was coming from Canada or the U.S., but we know it exploded on the U.S. side. The U.S. Attorney and the FBI will be speaking to reporters later this evening, so we should hopefully have more information soon.
These crossings in western New York are always busy, and this is one of the busiest travel times of the year. So what is the scene like this afternoon?
Yeah, the crossing is always busy. Niagara Falls is a huge tourist destination, but this is also one of the busiest travel days of the year. People frequently rent places in Canada to spend with their family, or they'll go up to visit family. We spoke to one family from Pennsylvania, drove all the way up here from Allentown only to find out the bridge was closed. I was also at the Lewiston-Queenston Bridge earlier today. That's about 15 to 20 minutes north of Niagara Falls. Authorities had the highway blocked off a mile before the bridge. They were just directing people to the last exit before the